Once you're logged into your administrator account, all of the tools you need are located at the very top left of the screen under the Administration menu. The first place to go is usually Admin Resources. This is a collection of guides, resources, and other materials for professors to help them get acquainted with the platform and find ways to use it in their classes. For example, the Administrator User Guide, Setting Up Your Class, Creating and Managing Assignments are all different guides on how to set up classes and manage your class after it's started. Messaging gives you some information about different ways you can communicate with your students on the platform. The Class Project Ideas is a collection of different ways professors have been using the platform in their classes around the world. Currently, there's about 40 projects submitted, and if you have one that you'd like to submit to the collection, we would love to have it. Before you can use most of the different tools of the site, you'll need to set up your first class. Under the Admin menu, you'll have to click Create a Challenge. This takes you to the challenge creation page. First, you'll need to give your class a name. This will appear for your students when they're trying to register, and it helps them find which class is which. The description will only appear if your students have already been in a previous class, but it can still be useful to have them help find it. The estimated number of participants does not actually affect anything in the background of the site, but it does help us keep track of how many people are using the platform around the world. Next, choose the currency of your portfolio. By default, it's US dollar. However, there's a list of over 30 currencies you can choose from. Then, choose your initial cash balance. This is the amount that you'll be giving your students when they first join your class. By default, we give 1 million. The most common numbers are 1 million, 100,000, and 10,000. Next, you can select the minimum stock price for buying. You can set this lower to let your students buy anything, or set this higher to disallow trading of penny stocks. Then, you can select the minimum price for shorting. This is the same idea. If you want to disallow shorting entirely, you can do that farther along the page. Next, you can set your registration start and end dates and your trading start and end dates. These can be set to be the same dates, or you can set them independently. Students will be able to register your class between these dates, and they'll actually be able to start trading in their portfolio between these dates. After the trading end date, their portfolio is frozen, so they can still log in and see how they did, but they won't be able to place any more trades, and their prices will no longer update. Then you can set your challenge to be public or private. Public means anyone on the site can join into your class. Private means that you enter a password, and then your students need to enter this password when they try to register. We recommend that unless you have a good reason to, leave your contest as public and make it easier for your students to register. Next, you can decide whether or not you want to allow Sharpe ratio rankings and rankings by alpha and beta. The Sharpe ratio is a risk-adjusted return, while the alpha and beta is also risk-adjusted but only works especially well for US equities. You can set these to on or off, and you can also change these as the contest moves forward. Then you can allow or disallow short selling and day trading in your class. If you disallow day trading, students cannot buy and sell the stock in the same day. They have to wait until the next day. The same goes for trading on margin. If you allow trading on margin, your students can borrow up to their initial portfolio value in additional cash. If you allow trading on margin, this happens automatically. So as soon as your students use up all their cash, they'll be able to borrow to use more. For create an assignment, I'll cover this more in detail later, so for now we'll leave this setting as no. You can always create an additional assignment later if you don't at the contest creation process. Fill orders on daily volume is a liquidity parameter. This tells your students how much they're allowed to trade relative to the current market volume. So for example, with 100% limit, if a stock has a volume of 10 in the actual markets, your students can buy up to 10 shares. If you set it to 200, if the stock has a volume of 10 shares in the actual market, your students can buy up to 20 shares. If you're just trading equities, we recommend setting this lower. If you're allowing your students to trade options and futures, we recommend setting this higher, since many option contract strike prices and expiration dates have a very low volume. Next, set your benchmark index. This will appear in the portfolio snapshot for each of their students to see how well they're doing compared to one of the major benchmarks in the world. From there, you can choose which security types to allow your students to trade, along with the commission structure. Equities trading, for example, allows you to set a commission per trade, per share, or as a total percentage of their entire trade. You can set the exact unit here, whether it's a dollar amount per trade or a percentage of the total trade, and a position limit. The position limit is how much of their entire portfolio can be in any one stock. So with a 25% position limit, if you have a $100,000 starting portfolio, your students can put up to $25,000 in any one stock. If you set it to 200%, they would be able to invest all of their starting cash plus all of their margin into one single stock. You can allow and disallow each security type individually and set their commission structure individually, along with their position limits. Then you can select which global exchanges you want to allow your students to trade in. The US exchanges all trade in real time. Toronto and most of the other global exchanges trade with a 15-minute delay. Some exchanges, like Ireland and Chile, trade end of day, which means your students can place orders at any time, but their orders will only execute once per day. Once you have your class set up the way you'd like it, you can click Create. However, note that you can always change as your class goes on which security types are allowed, which exchanges are allowed, and the minimum prices. This means that you can set your class up to start, for example, trading only equities with a $5 minimum stock price, but as the class goes on, you can allow them to trade options, mutual funds, and bonds with lower minimum stock prices. Once you create your challenge, you'll be taken to the challenge creation confirmation page. This has important information about the challenge you just created, and you will also receive a copy of this information by email. The two important items on this page is the contest invite link here. You can give this link to your students to get them registered directly into your class, and the assignment admin link here. This will allow you to create and manage assignments for your class. Once your challenge is set up, you can edit the rules of your challenge at any time from the administration menu by clicking Edit Challenge. To view the reports for your challenges, under the administration menu, go to Reports. If you're the master administrator of your site, you'll be able to see every class that's been created. If you're a sub-administrator, you'll only be able to see the classes that you've created yourself. There are several different tabs on the reports page, and I'll go through them one by one. The summary report includes things like the total number of students that have registered into your class, the total number of activations, meaning the number of students who've placed at least one trade, and the total number of trades that have been placed in your class. You can also get the invite link here, so you can send to any students who've registered late or if you did not get your confirmation email. To change which report is showing, choose a class on the contest drop-down menu and click Get Report. The Rankings tab will include information on every student in your class, including their username, their full name, their current portfolio value, their Sharpe ratio, alpha and beta, the total number of trades they've made, and the day they registered to your class. The View More button will give you information on each student's open positions and trades, while the Cash Adjustment button will allow you to add or subtract cash from each student's account. You can also export any of these individual reports using these Export Excel buttons at the top of the page. The historical ranking report is similar to the previous, except it contains more information, and you can click this date range to change the date showing for any particular day that your class was active, which will show you all of the information for that student's portfolio on that given day. The registration file is useful to get more information on your students. So for example, the first name, last name, phone number, username, email address, more fields depending on what we ask on your particular site's registration page. User accounts includes a little bit more information on each student's trading activities. For example, you can see how many total orders they've placed regardless of whether or not they've executed. trades they've placed this month, trades they've placed for the entire lifetime of this challenge, and the last time they've logged in. The reports page wraps all of these things together as one. By clicking any of these buttons, you will export all of your class's information to one big Excel spreadsheet. For example, export account statements will download all of your students' account balances, transaction histories, and open positions into one single spreadsheet for you to browse at your convenience. Export historical portfolio values will show you every one of your students' portfolio values during every day of your class. And the export account details lets you select smaller versions of the previous reports. The top traded securities report will show you the most commonly traded stocks in your class for any given period. You also have the ability to create what we call assignments for your class, which is a list of tasks for your students to complete. To create an assignment, go to the administration menu at the top of the page and click Assignments. Next, go to Create New Assignment to create the first assignment for your class. Assignments include many things. The most common first assignment is watching the tutorial videos, such as the site overview, how to trade stocks, how to trade mutual funds, how to trade options, etc. The Select All button will include all of these items in an assignment. If you want to view or expand one of these sections, you can always click these collapse buttons. We also include some short quizzes on some basics of investing. For a university finance class, these are probably well below the level of your students, but if you're doing a lower level personal finance class or campus-wide challenge, you may want to include some of these items within your assignment. Then, near the bottom, we have all of the different trading activities that your students can do. For each of these, you can say whether or not you want to require it and how many of each type of trade they need to place. So for example, I want to require each of my students to buy 5 US stocks and short 2 US stocks. And I want to make them at least 10 total trades. Once you have everything that you want to have your students do, you'll need to give your assignment a name and select the start and end dates of your assignment. By default, these will be the same as the class start and end dates. If you intend to have multiple assignments for your class, we recommend that you do not overlap these because your students can only get credit for one assignment at a time. That means that if you have 2 active assignments and your students are placing trades, they'll only count for one of them at a time and they'll have to manually switch to the other one. In the past, we've had problems with students not realizing they could do this, and so they were only getting credit for one of the assignments at a time. Once you have everything set as you like, click Create to create this assignment. For your students, as soon as an assignment is created, it will appear on their dashboard page on the right. It will have a list of all the items that you've required them to do, along with their progress on each of the assignments and their overall progress. If you do have more than one assignment, they'll be able to switch between them here as well. Once your students have started making progress, you as the administrator can go back to the assignments page in the administration menu to start viewing their progress. Now, instead of going to create a new assignment page, we're going to the report card. The report card lists every single student in your class and the completion percentage that they've gained on each of the assignment items. It also includes their last login date, so you can tell whether or not they've actually been logging into their account and trading. Like most of the other reports, you can also export this to Excel if you want to see all of your students in one place. If you click these Details button, you'll see the students' completion on each of the items in their entire assignment.